Hey, what's up guys, it's Mad Games GX here, and we are going to be doing my 3 structure decks in a dream deck profile for Genesys Format with branded DESPIA. Of course, I've gotten so many requests in the comments about a Genesys branded deck profile that uses basically at its core 3 structure decks. Now, a lot of people want me to only use 3 structure decks, and I'm here to tell you, unfortunately, you're going to have to buy a few staples. Now, this list has less than $10. So with that being said, let's get right into it. All right, guys, so this is going to be a 40 card list, and 90% of the deck is basically just cards out of the structure deck, right? You have the 3 Shrouded Dragon, you have 3 Aluber, 2 Cartesia, 3 Despian Tragedy, which you end up getting from the structure deck. We're running 3 triple Tragedy because we are also running High Spirits, and we're making Tragedy a High Spirits bridge through the use of Shaddoll Construct, because this is a fairy, and with High Spirits to discard Tragedy to search out any monster that mentions Fallen Valbaz while extending your combo, getting you a fusion in graveyard to banish for the Mirror Jade. Construct is perfect for this, and then also we can side into the Shaddoll Fusion package, which Shaddoll Fusions are quite cheap on top of Construct. This could very well be the Dracotail engine, but if you want to see a Dracotail Genesys branded deck profile, go look at my first video for this first points adjustment. That's currently what I'm running. This is what I suggest if you're just picking up branded or you're just picking up the 3 structure decks, because this is the closest you're going to get to a branded deck list that can definitely just like win your Genesys locals or even do well at pot at one of these YCSs. Then we have 3 Fallen of Albaz, the boy, right? He's still a great board breaker. And then 1 Quem. Since our points are at 99, we can only run the 2 Quem, or the 1 Quem, 2 Cartesia, 1 branded fusion, plus the fusions, unfortunately. So that's just kind of where we're using our points. I still think most lists that are not using branded fusion are extraordinarily cope for Genesys Format. So we still want to use those points for branded fusion. It's still your best 1 card. Your best 1 card combo, even though it's gotten a lot worse with the points adjustment. However, if you combine this with any other extender in your deck, you just like make a full board of like 5+ interruptions, which is still quite solid for this format. And then 3 Radiant, the multi-dimensional Kaiju. This is where I'm choosing to use my non-engine slots. So this is a Kaiju. I think your worst matchups in the format are easily it's kind of like how I called it, but Super Quantum is quite good still. Because they can make a towers, and then the tower splits apart once you kaiju them into a bunch of negates. So it's a very tough matchup. You kind of need double board breaker plus an extender / starter to even win that matchup. So we're running the Book of Lunar Eclipses. I wish we could run a Droll, but we don't have the slot anymore because Konami took away all of our points. So that's besides the point. And Book of Lunar Eclipse is something that could very easily be any generic free board breaker you have around your house, whether it's Final Bringer of the End Times, or Book of Lunar Eclipse, or Dark Ruler No More. I think all of these work very well. You just need something that will take care of your opponent's board, preferably a quick play though, because going first, this means you can set this as an interruption, which is quite good at the moment when you're looking for as much juice as you can get into your branded end boards. Now, we do have 2 Spriggan's Kit plus the Ad-Lib. So the Spriggan's Kit, you get these in the structure deck. It's one of your best 1 card starters, but mainly it's there to recur the branded fusion out of your graveyard once it's already, let's just say your opponent banished off a crow or something. And that's just also good for really nice grind gaming. So we're running 3 Tragedies, so I think Ad-Lib should be standard there. We're also running double branded in red and branded banishment. So if you get Ad-Lib into rotation, it's very good. And then once again, 3 High Spirits, 2 branded in red. I like the double branded in red with how many Tragedy we have, and it's good for just constant, just having a play on top deck kind of situation. And same with the 3 Tragedies, because right, like you'll have this in the graveyard, and then you can banish this on your the turn after it was sent there, and then have more crackback. So I do think this deck has a coherent game plan, all things considered. And then we have branded in white, 3 branded opening plus 3 fusion deployment, and then of course 1 branded banishment and 1 branded retribution. I still love banishment. I think banishment should be standard when you run Ad-Lib, and I think Ad-Lib should be standard right now. Plus the fact is you only have so many branded fusion monsters, so being able to revive the Mirror Jade that your opponent outed for whatever reason, plus giving you a super poly like effect, so it is very good in my all things considered. And for this reason, you can actually consider running Starving Venom, all things considered, because this card is very good in the context of actually whether it's making something or just using your branded banishment to fuse off 2 dark monsters on your opponent's side of the board. And now we have, for the extra deck, we have Alba System, Dogmatica, Calamity. So this is going to be our next, like, Titanclad, essentially, because Titanclad was pointed out so we can no longer run him. We need a big guy to basically run over towers that we can make, and Alba System, Dogmatica, Calamity is the best option. It's 4,500 attack. It requires Fallen of Albaz plus 6 monsters in your graveyard with different names, so you can obviously use Brandon White for that, or a Lubellion. It's also 6 generic monsters, so you can spin back 6 monsters in your graveyard from the Lubellion for, like, really good grind game, which is kind of nice. But then also this has OTK potential, so it's not a bad card. It just doesn't have a good send. However, it can be a send off of Mirror Jade if you need it. And then 1 Alba Lenatus. This is something I'd like to run multiples of. It's just a kind of a tight extra deck with this build, but this is going to be one of your best sends off of Mirror Jade, but then also branded in High Spirits if you don't want to use your Albion necessarily. And then we have 1 Mirror Jade, 1 Albion, and then 1 Lubellion. We did get Lubellion back, so this was a buff in its own right, because we previously only had Albions and Mirror Jade, so we would eventually run out with Lubellion. We never run out of grind game now, which is a very good thing. And then also for the rest of the branded fusion monsters, we do have the Rinbrum, the Striking Dragon. This is free, and it could be actually at multiples like Alba and Striking Dragon. If you don't have some of these other options that I'm going to present to you, you could run multiples of these for right now if you're just picking up the triple structure decks. And then 1 Grand Guignol, 1 Borreload. This is like $15 for some reason. Sorry about that, guys. And then Starving Venom Dragon. This is for the branded banishment plays, but then also sometimes you can make this going second and kind of have a good time into like Towers monsters, stuff like that. And then Despian Quertus, 1 El Shadal Construct, 1 Chaos Star Source, 1 Emblem Miladies for the Romarin. Then 1 Stapelia is one of your best endboard pieces. I kind of want to run 2 of this, but I can't really fit it in this build. And then 1 Despian Lulu Wall Lilith, because this is going to be one of your best sends off of Grand Guignol. In order to get a Quem or Cartesian board, this is going to be the most important expensive card that you have to get that isn't in the structure deck, but is quite important in my opinion. And then for the side deck, really quickly, these are a bunch of cards that are not in your structure deck, so your mileage may vary, but a lot of the non-engine, unfortunately, that you get in the structure deck just does not, it's all pointed, right? So you can't quite even use it. But once again, just go through your bulk and pick out some of these cards, or go on TCG Player. They're all quite cheap. 3D Crow, Shadal names for the Shadal Fusion, so you have better board breaking, and pop a card, draw a card off the Shadal Beast and Dragon. Dark Ruler No Mores with a pair of Lightning Storms for board breaking, and then 3 Twin Twister for all the prolific back row decks. So let's get right into the combo guide. So I'm going to show you guys what happens when you have an only structure deck hand, and then I'm going to show you guys just kind of the more enhanced combos once you have other cards. So essentially this hand is going to just be a Luber plus Fusion Deployment. We go Fusion Deployment out for Cartesia, reveal the Grand Guignol, go for then the Aluber, and then normal summon the Aluber and go for Aluber effect. We have a Dark Dragon rotation. Maybe we could go for something else. However, I think we're just going to go for the branded fusion here. And then we can go for the branded fusion, and by sending, since this is only for structure deck cards, just in case you guys don't want to get anything else in the deck profile, we'll send the Cartesia plus that into the Albion, and then go Albion effect to then banish Aluber plus the Albaz into the into the Lubellion, and then go Lubellion effect, discarding the Kaiju, spinning back itself plus the Albaz in order to then go out to the Mirror Jade. And here you can then just go Cartesia effect to then fuse off itself plus the Albion into the Lulu Wall Lilith, into the Grand Guignol, and then into the Grand Guignol, and then we can go Grand Guignol effect to then send the Lulu to the graveyard. And here we have a pretty loaded graveyard. We just don't have Albaz yet, but we will get there, because we will then go for the Lulu in the end phase to then go for the Quem, and then Quem here is going to then send the Albaz off of its effect to then send that to the graveyard. And now we get the Albion, the branded dragon, in the end phase in order to go for the branded in red. It's whatever you want to get here. It could be branded retribution or branded banishment. I think branded red is pretty good here, because then we would be able to make a Draco Stapelia on our opponent's turn. And at this point, now we have our Quem, Cartesia, and Mirror Jade. So we have the Mirror Jade banish. For 1, we could send the Rinbrum, and then we can trigger the Quem after we banish one of our opponent's monsters to summon out the Cartesia. And then, of course, with the Rinbrum in the graveyard, we can always summon out the Albaz for further interruptions. discard a card, of course, and fuse off with Cartesia potentially with the Grand Guignol, or even the Albaz if you need to, in order to go into the Dracos Tapelia. So you have a fair amount of interruptions just based off of that 2-card combo. And then also, guys, what did you think of the deck list? The deck list was quite solid, I think, and actually gives people a plan, if you want really cheap. I know a lot of people picked up 3 branded structure decks after watching my videos last format, and they were like, oh, we can play Genesys with branded, and now you think you can't. But obviously, honestly, I think that this build is quite good, and I think that it's something that you guys should try out. So with that being said, I'll be seeing you guys later. It's MegaGamesGX signing out. I will be seeing you guys later. Bye now.